I think we can all agree the opening weekend of the Championship season did not disappoint, and let's hope game week 2 is just as exciting. We're back for another weekly prediction video, and as always I want to hear from you guys in the comments down below. Do get involved in the fun and drop your score predictions down there. As always, we've got some juicy games coming up this weekend, but without any further ado, let's just jump in. Starting out on Friday night, we've got Coventry going up against Oxford. Coventry could really do with a result in this one after losing their season opener against Stoke. Quite a bit of expectancy on Coventry's shoulders this season, and Mark Robins especially will know how important it is to get off to a good start this season, especially after how last season's false start ended up holding them back in their chase for the top 6. This one won't be easy against an Oxford side who I'm sure will be full of confidence after that opening day display. I did back them for all 3 points against Norwich in that game, and they went ahead and delivered. Brilliant game to watch as well. Mark Harris and Cameron Brannigan both opening their accounts for the season. I expect chances at both ends for this one. I reckon both teams will get on the score sheet. For a score prediction, I'm just going to back Coventry to bounce back in this one. I'm going to go 2-1 Cov in that game, but Oxford will give them a good run for the money, I reckon. Another early kickoff we've got on Saturday sees Portsmouth going up against Luton, and this should be quite the interesting matchup, shouldn't it? Portsmouth with a great result on the opening game week, a point against Leeds in that bonkers 3-3 draw. Definitely had to ride their luck at points of that match with how many chances Leeds actually had, but always managed to hang in there. And yeah, I think John Mousinho's side will take real confidence from that opening game. And do you know what? I really think they can bring the game to Luton in this one. I think home form will be really important for Portsmouth this season. And looking at Luton's opening day performance against Burnley, albeit against a very good Burnley side, but I think that if Luton come into this Portsmouth game with that same back three that they played on the opening game of the season, Portsmouth absolutely will get chances in this one. At the other end of the pitch, Luton will have chances. They've got that physicality with Morris and Adebayo and Chong playing off them. There is a lot of goals to be had there, but with this being Pompey's first home game of the season, the crowd will be rocking. I reckon we could get a bit of an upset in this one. Score prediction, I'm going to go 2-1 Portsmouth in that game. Why not? Next up, and into the first of the Saturday 12:30 kickoffs, we've got Derby going up against Middlesbrough. Derby could do with something in this game after losing their season opener against Blackburn. Won't be easy though against a Borough side who I thought looked quite good against Swansea, especially in the first half of that game. It was an Emmanuel Latte-Lath penalty which was the difference between the two sides, but Middlesbrough had more than enough chances, especially in the first half, to kill that game off. Thinking about how many chances Derby gave up to that Blackburn side last time as well, you'd think Middlesbrough get quite a few opportunities at goal in this one. Derby, to be fair, in that second half against Blackburn, did start to open up the game a little bit more, had a little bit more joy in the final third and got into some decent positions. I just look at the makeup of that squad, the quality that Borough then have in the final third. I reckon they'll force Derby into a few defensive mistakes, and for a score prediction, I'm going to go 2-0 Borough in that game and back them for another win. Another of the early kickoffs we've got going on is at the Hawthorns. That sees West Brom going up against Leeds United. This should be a really tasty fixture this early in the season. Now, Corberán definitely had the beating of Farke last season. West Brom went unbeaten against Leeds in the Championship last time around. If they can do the same again, I'd be seriously impressed. The Baggies with one of the performances of last weekend as well. Even when all the odds seem to be stacked against them, and Corberán especially, they always seem to come up with something, and last time out it was Josh Maja who provided the goods for them in that 3-1 triumph against QPR. Leeds, I mean, such a topsy-turvy game against Pompey, wasn't it? They had more than enough chances to kill off that game, but always seemed to leave the back door open for Portsmouth. West Brom I'd expect to be really well disciplined for this sort of game, and at the Hawthorns last season, they were so strong, it really felt like their home form was what carried them into the top 6 in the end. I reckon both teams get on the score sheet for this one. I've just got a feeling with West Brom at the Hawthorns, they could do Leeds over in this one. Score prediction, I'm going to go 2-1 to the Baggies, you know. Next then, and into the Saturday 3pms, we go to Ashton Gate for Bristol City up against Millwall. This should be an interesting matchup. Both teams were guilty of conceding late goals in the opening weekend. Obviously, Bristol City conceded that late penalty against Hull, and Millwall conceded that last-minute winner to Watford. In terms of Bristol City, I was actually quite impressed with their performance against Hull. I thought they had a decent amount of control in that game. Some nice play between the thirds. I thought Armstrong looked quite lively in the final third as well. But what's been a bit of a problem for Bristol City for quite some time now is hitting the back of the net on a regular basis and killing games off when they get themselves into that leading position. But there was definitely more positives than negatives, I thought, from that opening day display against Bristol City, certainly to build upon for the remainder of the campaign. Still not quite sure where I stand on Millwall, to be honest with you. They conceded a few bizarre goals in that game against Watford, obviously conceding directly from a corner, and then Watford go ahead and score a worldie of a free kick, don't they? I reckon this game will be a little bit tighter. Draw here wouldn't surprise me. I think I'm just edging it to Bristol City with home advantage. I'm going to go 1-0 Bristol City in that game, but there won't be much to separate them, I wouldn't have thought. After that, we head to Turf Moor for Burnley up against Cardiff. Burnley definitely putting in one of the most impressive performances of the Championship opening weekend. Really convincing stuff from Scott Parker's side. I think this is definitely a contrasting Burnley side to the last one we saw in the Championship with Vincent Kompany, but definitely one that can still be just as effective. They really played on Luton's weaknesses in that match, and going off the evidence of the opening game week, definitely look like they'll be one of the strongest sides in the Championship this season. They're going up against Cardiff in this one. I thought there were a few positives to take out of Cardiff's opening day performance against Sunderland, to be fair, despite them being on the losing end of that one. But I just think Burnley will be a different kettle of fish in this one. Score prediction, I'm going to go for a convincing Burnley 3-0 home win in that one. Next then we go to Norwich up against Blackburn. Not the start of the season that Norwich were after last time, losing against Oxford, and a pretty resounding loss as well. Defensive mistakes in that one. The defensive duo at the back of Hanley and Duffy, they didn't look great in that game against Oxford, and I think they will give up chances to Blackburn in this one. I think with how many moving parts there are at Norwich right now, it seems like a decent time to play them early on before they fully clicked into gear under their new manager. Players still coming in and out as well. In terms of Blackburn, really entertaining opening day display against Derby County. Like Norwich though, I do think this Blackburn side will give up chances, so Norwich will have opportunities in this one, I think. Score prediction in this one, I'm going to go for an entertaining 2-2 draw. I see a few goals at either end in that one. Next then we go to Home Park for Plymouth up against Hull City. Wayne Rooney really could do with a resultant performance in this game after how easily they were torn apart by Sheffield Wednesday on the season opener, obviously. This is a repeat of the final game of last season when these two sides faced each other at Home Park. In the end, it was Plymouth who got all 3 points, and the 3 points which ultimately secured their survival as a Championship club. This one won't be easy. They're going up against a Hull side who I thought grew into that game against Bristol City a little bit more as that one sort of went along, looked a little bit more positive after the second half changes they made. Still very much a work in progress at the moment though, Hull, they're by no means the finished article. But after how passive Plymouth looked in that season opener against Wednesday, I think most people will probably be fancying Hull for a result in this one. And I think I'm thinking along the same lines. Score prediction, I'm going to go 2-0 to the Tigers. After that, we go to Bramall Lane for Sheffield United up against QPR. Have to admit, was really quite impressed with the Blades on the opening game week of the season. Obviously, I saw them up close and personal against my team, Preston. Really impressed with the overall cohesion of that side, especially with how many debutants Sheffield United had playing in that game, how many new faces Wilder's got to integrate at the moment. But I suppose the biggest compliment I can pay to Sheffield United in that opening game against Preston was they really didn't need to click out a second gear for the vast majority of that match and still look comfortable for the vast majority of it. I do think QPR will give the Blades a better run for their money than Preston did on the opening game week, but Sheffield United still come into this game as the favourites, especially with QPR maybe not looking 100% right now with some of the injuries they've got, still got quite a few new faces to integrate themselves. And as we saw in the opening game week for QPR, while it is a very talented squad, they weren't quite at 100% against West Brom in that opener. So like I say, I do think QPR will give Sheff United a closer game than Preston did on Friday, but for a score prediction, I'm backing the Blades for back-to-back wins, I think. Score prediction there, I'm going to go 2-1 Sheffield United. Next then we go to the Liberty for Swansea up against Preston. Both sides looking for their first points of the season. Swansea lost their season opener to Middlesbrough. Thought they grew into that game a little bit as it went on, and in the second half they improved a bit, but looked a little bit clunky and chance creation wasn't amazing in that game for Swansea, albeit it was against a very good Middlesbrough side, and you'd expect them to get a little bit more joy in this one against Preston. Being a Preston fan over these last few days has been absolutely mental, and honestly, nothing would really surprise me in this game. I think Preston are a bit of a wild card coming into this weekend on the back of Ryan Lowe leaving the club. In saying all of that, preparation for this game probably hasn't been ideal with everything going on behind the scenes at North End right now, and Swansea should probably look to take advantage of that. Saying all of that as well, the Liberty hasn't really been a happy hunting ground for Preston over these last few decades. I think in the past 2 decades we've only won once at the Liberty. With Lowe gone, I'm not totally sure where I stand on this fixture right now. I think I'm going to go with my head though, and I think Swansea probably do edge it. I'm going to go 1-0 Swansea in that game, but with Lowe gone, anything could happen here. The last of the Saturday games we've got going on sees Watford up against Stoke City. A nice matchup here. Two sides who got excellent results on the opening game week. Watford with that bonkers 5-goal thriller against Millwall. Some good, some bad, I thought, to take out of that performance from Watford. Some lovely goals scored, but a few lapses in defence, which cleverly I'm sure will be keen to iron out. For Stoke, really impressed with that opening day performance against Coventry. I was backing Cov for all 3 points in that game, like a lot of the comments were, but Schumacher tactically got that one spot on. I thought they did well to nullify an attack on paper that looks really strong in that Coventry one, but Stoke had the better chances and were the deserved winners in the end. This will be a tricky one. Watford have been a difficult side to beat at home with Cleverley in charge so far. I wouldn't be surprised if this one ends level. I'm going to go for a goal either way. I'm going to say 1-1 draw between these two this weekend. And then the last game we've got going on this weekend sees Sunderland going up against Sheffield Wednesday at the Stadium of Light. Two sides who picked up really good results on the opening game week. Sunderland with a good result away at Cardiff. I thought it was a good debut for Reg of the Breeze side. I thought they looked pretty comfortable out of possession in that one. Alan Brown I thought was a nice new dynamic added into that midfield, and obviously took their goals quite well when they came. In saying that, I think Sheffield Wednesday were the side that produced the performance of the opening game week though, with that absolute hammering of Plymouth Argyle. Listen, Plymouth probably played into their hands and made it easy for Wednesday at times, but they still accumulated an XG of 4.59, by far the highest of the weekend, had 30 shots in that game and looked constantly like a threat every time they went forward. I have a feeling we're in for a good game between these two. Both teams have got quality, but I was just so impressed with that opening day showing from Wednesday that I think I give them the edge in this one. Score prediction, I'm going to go 2-1 Wednesday, which will be a great result for them. But there you guys have it. That will now wrap it up for today's video. Thank you very much for tuning in. If you did go to enjoy, make sure to leave a like, and do drop all your score predictions in the comments down below. But other than that, guys, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.